think, act, and prosper. You are now tuned into the Money Level Show.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And so, like, I've kind of noticed, like, even with Bitcoin and a lot of these other altcoins that, there's like within the investment, there's this emotional component to it. Like, recently, we've seen Dogecoin go from, under a penny to 45 cents this morning. I was looking at it and I was like sick to my stomach. I was like, why did I sell out? Why did I sell it? Like it was no reason in doing that. And my wife always tells me, like, don't sell it. But at the same time, like, you want to know when to take profits and things like that. I think kind of one of those psychological things is that, when we get too greedy and we don't take profits, then when we see these big corrections, then a lot of people end up, getting hurt, and hopefully no suicides, anything like that, no Charles Schwabs or, nothing like that, but, we have to be comfortable at some point taking profits. Like, and how do you kind of analyze that for yourself?
I view it as the percentage of my portfolio that one asset makes up. So rather than precisely trying to time tops and bottoms, I do look for indicators of tops and bottoms. But anyone who's been in markets for a long time will tell you that timing tops and bottoms of different asset classes is extraordinarily difficult. And so it's all about probabilities. So rather than try to time exact things too much, my goal is just kind of risk management. So how much capital do I want to have risk in one investment? And of course, it's one of those things where if it goes up a lot more than you think or faster than you think, of course, you wish you had more in it, right? You wish you were leveraged for it. You wish, you bought as much as you could. But then on the other hand, when, something does correct and go down and has a big crash, and you're still exposed to it, you wish like, oh, I should have sold, or I should have not been leveraged, or I should have, so it's always like, people tend to pour in at the wrong times. Like they pour in on the top of markets, or they get out at the bottom of markets. And it's one of the ways to kind of mitigate emotions in my, experience is to just not let any individual asset class get too big, because as a percentage of your portfolio, because if it gets really big, then you're emotional about it, right? You're defensive about it. If someone criticizes it, you're like, you gotta stick up for it, and you kind of like, you're super kind of tense about it. Whereas if you kind of have a collection of different assets that you're bullish on, they can take turns. One asset class might do well for 6 months while another one does poorly. Then 6 months later, they might switch. And as long as you're kind of, all of them are decent assets over time, the portfolio can do very well. And so, for me, I bought Bitcoin. I had a very high conviction it was going to do very well. But rather than say put all my net worth in it, I'm like, okay, here's a pretty big chunk that I think it's going to do well in. And when it did do very well, like, of course, I wish I had even more in hindsight. But it's it's all about risk management, and so that's how I approach pretty much any asset class. And especially if you were to get something really speculative like Dogecoin, that's where you certainly want to have strong risk management for that kind of trade. Because the thing about Dogecoin is that it was originally invented as a joke. And it's been around for a while, and it's partially because of Elon Musk always tweeting about it, it's done very, very well over the past year. But it's still like, fundamentally it's not as sturdy as something like Bitcoin. And so when we do have this big kind of big correction, some of these other altcoins like Dogecoin are likely to have a deeper percentage wise correction than something like Bitcoin. And so if you look at, for example, previous cryptocurrency cycles, Bitcoin has a big correction, but every cycle it reaches like way new highs, right? So the last correction, like the last cycle, got up to about 20,000. The cycle before that, it got up to about 1,000. So it basically keeps making higher highs during these 4-year cycles. Whereas some of the other ones, they hit these blow off tops and then they crash, and then even when the next cycle comes, they never get back to those previous highs. And so that's the thing to watch out for with some of these other cryptocurrencies, that they can get caught up in the bull run, but then they can permanently destroy capital. And it's very challenging to necessarily pick ahead of time which ones are going to be persistent enough to keep progressing through cycles. And so far, there's only been a few of them that have done that. Like Bitcoin, it's gone through 4 cycles now, and Ethereum now has gone through 2 cycles where it's hit new highs. And so, basically investors have to be careful about some of those other coins, and it is good to kind of use risk mitigation to make sure that they don't have too much capital in any one of them.